Today, I'm going to review these 4 images taken on Harman Direct Positive paper. Let's go. Yes, welcome back. 4 images right here in my hand taken with Harman Direct Positive paper and the photogenic strobe. One thing I'm discovering about this paper is it's not very lenient when trying to photograph with the strobe. Look at that, I'm dropping them already. It's not very lenient, meaning that there's very, very little exposure latitude with this paper. And that's an experiment I ran, and I'm going to show you next week. But with these 4, we're just going to go through and look at them, and I'm going to show you what led me to want to conduct that experiment. And then next week, I'm much more careful about it. But in this one, look, we have our little friend, Baby Yoda. If you watch the Book of Boba Fett on Disney Plus, there's a good chance we're going to see him next week as I'm recording this one, but who knows how that goes. Anyway, these are 4 images that I took in my living room using Harman Direct Positive paper. And let's go back a couple days and into my living room where I get these images. And then once that's all done, we'll come back here to the office and discuss these images. Welcome back. We're here once again in my living room, and I have a different subject today. My friend, Baby Yoda, Grogu is here, right here. We have a nice little scene set up for him. I have my speed graphic. I'm using the Harman Direct Positive paper again, and this Photogenic 1250 DR flash unit. Now, I have to calculate the flash, so it's the first thing we're going to do. If you'll follow along with me right here, I'm going to show you the app I use on my phone to do all this. Now, I spoke incorrectly. This is not actually an app. You could probably make it into an app. I'm sure there is an app out there, but it's not what I use. It's this website you can see here on the screen, and we're going to go down here. Now, you have to know what the guide number of your flash is. Now, I know the guide number on this is 365. And I am going to calculate the ISO on this paper to be, I'll use 3. Last time I used 2, I think it was a little bit too much, so I'm going to use 3, which should take the flash down a little bit. Now, I am using f5.6. That's the actual calculation here, but when you factor in the bellows, I'm going to leave it at 7.1. I'll be honest, I haven't actually calculated that for this one. I think 7.1 will be very close. And so for that 7.1 with this guide number and that ISO value, I need to be 9 feet away. This is not 9 feet. This is 4 feet. So I'm going to go right here, change that to 4. Now, according to that, I need to be at F16. Or I can set the guide number down 2 1/3 stops. So we'll come over here. We'll get this started. Now, this is just the model light, but so it's at 500. Now it's at 250. That's 1 stop down. It's at 125. That's 2 stops down. And then I have 1/10 here. So 1, 2, 3. I'm at 101 watt seconds power for this light at 4 feet away. I'm going to take 2 images with this. Step over into the model light. That thing's mighty bright. Okay, so I'm going to take 2 images with this. We'll go develop them, and I'll see how they look. So I am going to change up the pose on this just a little bit in between shots. But let's get the first one. I know it's focused. I've already got the focus good. It should be just on the front part of the face. And let's see how it looks. So I'll be honest, I messed that up a little bit. I had pulled the dark slide out early and I didn't have the lens cap shut. This may not work out all that good. There may be like a blackened portion of the frame, but I think it's going to be okay because of how the light in the room is actually working. I don't think there's really enough light that it'll make much of a difference. Shutter's cocked. I know the flash is attached. Pull the dark slide. And there we go. That's frame number 1. For frame number 2, I think I'm just gonna turn the head so that he's looking straight at the camera. Let me go in and verify that it's still focused. Yep, still focused. Load it in. Close the aperture. Cock the shutter. There's a lot of things to remember with these large format cameras. Pull the slide. There we go. All right, let's go out to the dark room. I'll get it developed and we'll see how they look. Okay, so the first calculation, I'll show the pictures right here. It didn't work. I did actually completely bake out the one image when I opened up the dark slide, but that ended up looking a little better than the second one did. So I've recalculated for ISO 2 because they were very, very underexposed. So I've gone with the ISO 2, and then I'm just going to go with half power. According to the calculator, that should be like a third. That should be 2/3 of a stop overexposed, but I want to go with it because I want to see if I can get an image using this, and so that I know, what I need to do in order to get, good exposures using this, because I want to use this for things other than just, photographing my friendly Lego friend here. And so I need to be able to get this right and not have to, burn paper. So let's get this one and take it back out to my dark room and get it developed and see how that goes. And then we'll get one more, depending how this one looks. All right, let's go develop it. So I liked how the third image turned out. I didn't think it was going to look good. I thought it was still really underexposed, even until I pulled it out of the fixer and brought it in to, the room to look at it in the room light. And I saw that it looked pretty good. Maybe it's just a fraction underexposed, but that's okay. So you can see that I've changed the setup a little bit. I've got the little figure just face onto the camera. Camera's in the same spot, but I've got the strobe set up here basically as if it's just a giant on-camera speed light. And so that's what I'm going to go with here for the final frame. And we're going to do this. One disadvantage with this, the way I have it set up, is the shadows. It's very big as far as shadows goes because there's nothing diffusing it. And so it gets shadows. But I'm not really worried about that right now. I'm experimenting with this stuff, trying to get good exposure using this light and this paper. So that's what we've got here. Let's go to the final exposure for this one. Shut that down. Cock the shutter. Pull the dark slide. And there we go. That's the last image from here. I'll see you again back at the office, and we'll talk about all the images. We'll talk about this strobe. I appreciate you. I'll see you back in the office. All right, here we are back in the office. I hope you enjoyed that. I didn't actually make you go out into the dark room with me into the red lights this time, so I'm sure people appreciate that. But right now, here on my computer screen that I'm looking right at here in front of me, and you can see on the screen right now, these are the images. This is the first one I took, the one where I pulled the dark slide out. And you can actually see the portion where I pulled the dark slide out is the portion that is better exposed because it got more light. And then the portion that was allegedly exposed right with the flash is over here on the right side of the image as I'm looking at it, right here. And that's just not properly exposed at all. Completely underexposed. So that's how this one went. And then this was the second one. And as you can see, once again, there's nothing here, very little here. And so when I did this, what I did was I bumped the exposure up and went to half power on the flash. And that's where I got this one. So this is half power. I would say this is actually exposed pretty close to correct. Now, on the meter off my phone, this probably should have been about a stop overexposed. But, it turned out pretty good. And that's when I started thinking about, with regular film, you would say it's reciprocity failure, but I'm not sure if that's the right term here. I think these papers are meant to be used with so much light that even with flash, and this is the experiment that I ran earlier where I had three more images with the Harman paper just sitting over drying. I think that's what I noticed with that, is that even if the exposure is correct using the flash, it's still not quite correct because the paper is not sensitive enough compared to even film or, digital media. And so I think that's an interesting thing to have to think about when trying to use this for flash. Now, outdoors, I don't think it's that big of a deal because obviously the sun is such a humongous light source. And then, even then, like with the video from Theodore Roosevelt National Park that I did about 6 months ago, even then, the exposures were a 20th of a second, a 10th of a second. When I stopped down to like F16, obviously it went up to like a full second, half a second or whatever. So that's a lot longer of an exposure compared to a 200th of a second with a flash pop. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I may have to do some more experimenting. I do have some more papers here, but back to this one. This image I actually think is pretty good. You can see the flash. I just positioned him so that he was looking straight into the camera, and you can see him here. And then this is the final image. I gave him his little gear shifter ball or whatever it's called. And this one, you know, you can start to see the harsh shadows back in the background. This is the one where I just basically turned the strobe into a gigantic speed light just right above the camera. And actually in this one down here in the dirt area, you can see the white speckles that are in the dirt, because I mean, this was just potting soil. I just had a bag, and so I just brought a bag and put it on the table. And so you can actually see that. And that's really interesting that you can see that. And then of course the painting in the background. But I like how this one turned out. And this one I used a half a stop below maximum power. So it's a 500 watt second unit. This one is at 375. I think that's half. I think it's 375. Obviously, you know, a full stop down is 250, 1/250th, and this was whatever's in the middle. I do think that's 375, but I'm not sure exactly what the unit says. Anyway, so this one should be probably a stop and a half overexposed, but I think this looks pretty good. There's actually no blown out areas here. This one may have been a little bit farther away. So I think the thing is, with this paper, it is a very extreme fall off once it starts being underexposed, at least with the strobe. And so that's what we're going to look at next week. If you want to take a look at that video, it'll be right here. If you're watching this in the future, right here. And I thank you for watching. I'll see you again next week where we do some more with the Harman positive paper.